Welcome back, new parents. We are so glad to have you with us today. When we think of the word discipline, we tend to associate the word with negative connotations. But when done properly, discipline is simply a way of teaching your child how to behave. It doesn't necessarily mean punishment, but it is a way of guiding a child to learn to behave correctly in any environment they find themselves in. It's our job as parents to equip our children with the right tools to cope in any situation, but we need to strike a balance. Too much discipline can be just as harmful to a child as too little discipline. The way you approach discipline could differ from one child to another, depending on the child's age, temperament, and personality, as well as your own parenting style. We've compiled a list of what many experts believe to be the most effective ways to discipline our children. 1. Rethink the way you perceive discipline. It's time to shift how you perceive discipline and stop seeing it as a form of punishment, but rather a way of helping your child with the coping skills needed in everyday situations. Child behavioral experts like to paint this grim picture. Imagine your toddler throwing a tantrum. Fast forward 15 years. Imagine your teenager throwing a tantrum. What started out as a sort of cute behavior that wasn't rectified as a child has now become something that is very difficult to control as a teen. We do understand that it's not always easy to discipline, but when you see a broader picture like we've just described, you realize it's worth it to put the effort in when they're little. 2. Use age-appropriate discipline. As your child grows, so does the way you discipline them. It will be quite strange getting your teenager to sit in timeout for 15 minutes, and it will be pointless trying to rationalize with a 2-year-old why their actions always have consequences, whether they be good or bad. At toddler stage, your little one is using temper tantrums, winging and fussing because at 2, you don't really know how to communicate what you're feeling. This is the age when they're testing the waters, pushing the boundaries, and finding their own voice. So it's up to you to help them out. The most typical problem is a tantrum. They don't call them terrible twos for nothing. Most of the time, children have tantrums when they are tired, hungry, ill, bored, or frustrated. If you can figure out early on what triggers the tantrums, you can avoid many of them before they even happen. Offer toddlers small choices. For example, offer them the choice of a banana or strawberries. It makes them feel empowered and gives them a little control. Preschoolers are at an age where they can follow instructions and understand your explanations. They're also at the age where whining and not listening are common too. Firstly, persevere. Ask them nicely to do something and leave it. If they don't respond, ask them nicely again and provide a consequence for not listening. Repeat yourself a 3rd time and then follow through with the consequence. School-age kids, or big kids, like your kid will want to be called, are a little trickier. So hopefully you've set the stage already and are not starting discipline from scratch. Their biggest challenges are general compliance, and you need to be firm in reminding them of the consequences and then following through with them. Tweens tend to backtalk a lot and are often quite contrary. Use the phrase when and then can be helpful, as it sets a clear indication of what you expect from your tween. Also remember to make sure your expectations are crystal clear, leaving no gray area for arguments later. The biggest area that requires discipline in teens is major attitude. This can be disheartening, but it's not forever if you handle it correctly. Teens need appropriate limits and consistency. We explain consistency in more detail soon. 3. Provide tools for your child to cope easier. Discipline takes time, so give yourself grace to know that it's not an overnight success story. Remember, the key ingredients to discipline are to instruct, teach, guide, and inform. You're there to help your child make better decisions and how to respond correctly in similar situations that happen outside the home. Try your hand at role-playing to explain to them how a situation should pan out. For example, if you spot your kid grabbing a toy car from another child, you can practice another way of dealing with that situation. And teach your child to say, "I would love to play with that car. May I have a turn when you're done?" Or if your little one is throwing a tantrum because they're hungry, help them to tell you they're hungry. Then have a little fun and reverse the roles. Show them how they look when they have a tantrum. They'll find it hysterical and then play it out as you expect it should go, and they will have a clear understanding moving forward. 4. Behave the way you want your child to behave. Don't be one of those parents who say to their kids, "Do as I say, not as I do." That's no way to teach your child the right way. Children model their parents' behavior, so it's up to you to show them the correct way. As a parent, we know that our kids are always watching us, so model the behavior you expect from them. And when you get it wrong, which you will sometimes, remember to apologize to your child too. They will love and respect you even more for that. Coming up, we share the benefits of having well-disciplined children. 5. Preempt the situation. You know your child the best in the whole world, so by the time they're throwing their little body onto the floor, kicking and yelling, you'll probably have a good idea of what triggered it. But if you don't, start observing and figuring out what your child's trigger points are. The sooner you can identify them, the fewer tantrums and embarrassing situations you'll have in the long run. 6. Use negative consequences appropriately. One would say there is almost a fine art to disciplining, and it's also a bit of trial and error. If you're going to be using a negative consequence to teach your child correct behavior, ensure you choose the correct consequence. There's no point taking away TV time if your kid still gets to watch his shows on a tablet. And we totally understand that sometimes that consequence affects you too, but you'll have to stand firm, and then with the above example, ensure that your child doesn't lean on you to get through his consequence of no screen time. You could use logical consequences, but these are all really only effective when the misdemeanor needs to be sorted out right away. For example, if your kid did something dangerous with his skateboard, the consequence is that you remove that skateboard from him or her right away. If it's a tantrum, don't give your toddler the attention they're hoping to get. Just ignore that behavior. Timeout can work, but you will know if it will be effective on your child or not. Many children despise getting added responsibility, like extra chores, so that might be a consequence that you find fits your family best. Figure out what works for you and your child and take it from there. Be prepared to have a few failures while you figure it out, and that's okay too. 7. Acknowledge good behavior. We've been so focused on correcting the incorrect behavior, don't forget to praise your child's good efforts. Compliment them when you see them doing something you like. The positive reinforcement will do them the world of good, and they will do it again, because they like being told they're good. Positive reinforcement is much more effective if it's immediate, although it certainly won't go amiss if you tell them immediately and again later. If you're rewarding for good behavior, littlies will love seeing how well they're doing each time you put a sticker on their reward chart. Remember that the reward should optimally be an activity or time spent with mom, dad, carer, like a trip to the playground. Ultimately, you don't want to be buying things as rewards, because good behavior should be a natural, everyday occurrence and not something we're rewarded for doing. 8. Manage your own stress levels. Discipline is not just about your child or children. It also has a lot to do with you. If you're stressed out or tired, it's easy to take out that stress on the child. You're more irritable, touchy, short-tempered, and emotional, all factors that are not conducive to great disciplining. Experts say that stressed out parents tend to use punishment for a quick fix, but it's an unhealthy cycle for the child, and kids can pick up when their parents are stressed out and tend to play out even more, making it a never-ending cycle. If you're struggling with stress and find yourself not enjoying parenting as you should, seek professional help for the sake of yourself and your child. 9. Parents need to be consistent, and truthfully, this can be the hardest part of the journey. It's even more of a challenge if the parents don't live together and the child has different rules for each home he or she spends time in. But the key to getting discipline right is consistency. If you ask your child for a third time to pick up their toys, or the consequence will be that you put those toys away for a week and they don't follow through, you must go and pick up those toys and put them away for a week, regardless of how bad or sorry you feel for your child. If you don't follow through, they will never take you seriously. Click here to watch our video on the top 10 parenting mistakes all new parents make, if you're keen to try and avoid some other common parenting mistakes. 10. You're a parent first, friend later. It's easy to fall into the trap of trying to be your child's best friend. We all want to be the cool parent, but unfortunately it just doesn't work, and your kid needs you to parent. If you are more buddy-buddy with your kid, you're going to have a hard time disciplining them, and they will struggle to navigate through life properly. So, put in the time and the consistency, and most importantly, do it all with love. Because even if your child has done something terribly wrong, they will always need to know that you love them unconditionally. Question: what discipline technique did you find the most effective growing up? How would you discipline differently from what you experienced as a child? We value your thoughts and input in the comments below. Bonus: so, new parents, you've put in the hard work, so what can you expect from all the effort? It's confirmed that children who have received proper discipline are more self-sufficient, have more self-control, enjoy helping around the house more, enjoy responsibility, are accountable for their mistakes, feel validated, can make friends easily, and are pleasant human beings to have around. Totally worth it.